Hey students, how you doing? Welcome to Life Science. It's good to have you here. I'm going to be recording my lectures and lessons this year, and so this is a way for you to be able to view things beforehand and then also study for things in case you need to for a test, or if you have to quarantine or for whatever reason you're not in class, you can always come back here and catch up and make sure you're current on all the lectures and lessons. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what life science is in our first couple sections here. So our first unit in life science is going to cover introduction to life science. We're going to talk about that today. Characteristics of what makes something alive, cells, and the basic building block of living things, and then taxonomy. It's the way that life scientists and biologists organize plants, animals, and living things. So let's talk about what chapter one is going to look like. So chapter one is the introduction to life science. What we're going to be talking about in chapter one is why we even study living things. What's the big deal? Why even? The second is we're going to talk about the scientific method, and we'll talk about how we measure things, and also lastly, lab safety. So our first chapter is going to cover four topics over four different lessons, and this is lesson one of chapter one. So let's get into it. Why do we even study life things? Why do we even study living things? Okay. We interact with living things every day. You are a living thing. I know sometimes you might feel a little sleepy and not alive in classes, but you are alive. You are real. Okay. So, but we don't often pay attention to all the living things around us. So, the one thing is by studying living things, we then can become more in tune with the world around us. The fact that there are millions upon millions of bacteria on our body helping us out right now, that's good for us. The fact that there are bugs and critters that are outside in our soil making life even possible for us to grow the food for us. The fact that there are birds and that we don't even know exist during because they live during the nighttime. So I'm excuse me, they're nocturnal, they're active during the nighttime. So that's why we study things. Is one is to understand more how creation was given to us to understand and to gain a better appreciation of what life is. So we're talking about science, and when we define science, this is how we define science. It is a systematic study of creation using methods based on observation and experimentation. So I'm going to talk about each one of those. Systematic, something that's a system, that's organized, that's well thought out. It has a process to it. So the process of doing science means that you are doing something. A scientist, she is doing something that is in an ordered way with some thought and some intention behind it. Okay, it's the study of creation, the world around us, the universe around us, in particular, the living things around us. And they're based on using methods based on observation by looking with our senses and looking with other devices as well, and experimentation to seeing what will work and what will not, setting up, asking questions, and then trying to prove whether those questions are true, whether they're false. And so science also helps us understand how God created creation. The Bible is not a textbook. The Bible tells of God's interaction with the world, that he created the world, that he set the world in motion, that he's involved in the world, that he enjoys the creation, that he longs to see the creation fulfilled to its original purpose again. So it also tells us more about how God, more of the character of God, because the Bible is not a science textbook. It is a book that tells us about God. It doesn't tell us specifically how to understand why a certain whale does a certain mating pattern or a certain call, or why a certain bird may have a certain shaped beak. That's not up for the Bible. The Bible is only for us to understand who God is and how we relate to God. But science helps us understand more about God and gives us an appreciation for that. So, what is life science? What is this all about? Well, it is the study of living things. Oh, I got a little typo there. Living things. So while I'm doing this live, even though it's on a video, I'm going to go ahead and do an edit live right in front of you here. So we'll go ahead and do that. Living things. beings. Okay, it is the study of living things that can help us better understand and appreciate God and the world He sustains. So when you think about life science, I want you to think of things that we're studying living things, whether we see them or not. So we're going to study living things like us. We're going to study the human body this year, all the different parts that make you up. We're going to study plants. We're going to study microscopic organisms in the incredible complex world. Even though it's small, it's very complex, and it's still scientists are trying to understand it. And we're also going to study plants and large things and small things. And so also, we're going to use technology. Often during this class, we're going to use something as simple as a microscope to something that might be a little bit more complex when we apply our science. So technology is helpful. It is a tool, kind of like a carpenter needs a hammer. Okay, a driver needs a bus driver needs a bus to drive and fuel. Okay, it is technology is the tools that help science progress. So that is going to be our first lesson. Please watch this when you can, and I'm so glad that you're here. Talk to you soon.